Two guys either side of 50 with one dream to achieve middle-aged sporting glory. This is the Missing Links Golf Show. Andy Walker, welcome back to a much anticipated episode 56 of the Missing Links Golf Show. Great to see you. It's been a while.
Yeah, it feels like it's been, 2 days?
About that. What a weekend.
Yeah, it was a great weekend. Loved it, to be honest. Really getting back into the whole championship mindset and certainly a New South Wales championship, which first one in about 30 years. Whets the appetite a little bit for next year and the New South Wales Senior Amateur, which we have found out is in the first week of March next year at Pacific Dunes and Nelson Bay Golf Club. So looking forward to that.
That is exciting. Absolutely. We love those courses. We love Nelson Bay. Big fan of that area. Pilgrims, we are, of course, for those of you playing at home, you will absolutely be aware of this already. But for anyone else tuning in, this is your first episode of the Missing Links Golf Show. Firstly, welcome. Secondly, we are here tonight to talk about the weekend that just went past. And that was the playing of the New South Wales Country Golf Championships that both Andy Walker and my good self were participants in. It was a fantastic weekend of golf. It was 36 holes of brutal stroke play over the rolling fairways of Parks Golf Club in the Central West of New South Wales.
How good is Parks? It's
love that place.
Yeah, like what I had a certain expectation of what the golf course would be like, and that is, I'd heard good things about it. There was a good country golf course, but I have to say it exceeded my expectations. I was very, very pleasantly surprised when I got there and had a look at the course, and certainly during the practice run on Friday, I was going, this is quality. It's going to be a good weekend.
It's a good golf course. There is an obscure connection between Parks and the Missing Links Golf Show, Andy Walker.
Oh, okay.
And can you guess what it is? Have you got any clues what it might be?
Oh, I think I might have an
inkling?
idea. I think I heard a rumor while we're out there that potentially there could be a bit of a connection, but do tell.
I don't know that I'm going to talk about the same connection that you're thinking of.
Oh, okay.
The connection, as a matter of fact, if you cast your mind back, I'm pretty sure that it was episode 1 of the Missing Links Golf Show.
Right.
When you, in fact, may have done somewhat of a subtle Elvis impersonation.
Ah, okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I may have.
And Pilgrims, Parks, of course, being home to the annual Elvis Presley Festival in January of each year. So there you go. That's a tenuous link, but a link all the same.
No, that wasn't what I was going to say at all. But Parks is also home of the Dish.
It is.
The famous satellite
telescope, radio telescope, I think.
Radio telescope, yeah, that's what it's called, which was made famous by a movie out there called The Dish.
The Dish.
My mother did say to me, so yeah, going out to Parks, you're going to go see The Dish? And I went, no,
nowhere near it, actually. For those of you not aware, the Dish played an integral role in the moon landing, tracking the Apollo spacecraft on its way to the moon when
it did.
When radio telecommunications were lost for a period of time. So historic site, Parks, and certainly a worthy location for a historic tournament, being the first New South Wales Championship played by both hosts of the Missing Links Golf Show.
Yes.
Big weekend, but I think, Andy Walker, where do we even start telling the story of this weekend? I feel like maybe we start on Friday.
Yeah, look, there was a certain amount of randomness that happened. I mean, I got out there before you did, and I managed to sneak in 18 holes
Mm,
of a practice round because we'd both never played parks before.
mm,
And I got to about the third hole, and a couple of guys came up behind me in carts. First guy I waved through, and he just went through. The second bloke was a parks local, and was just putting off the fourth or putting on the fourth green and walking off. And he said, "Oh, why don't you join me? I can sort of show you around and give you a few pointers and the rest." So anyway, I said, "Okay, yeah, that's great." So I did, and really, really good guy. Really funny guy. We had a few laughs, and he showed me a few of the little sort of tricks of the trade that were there at Parks, and yeah, so we played nine. He was only going to play nine, and then you and I joined up for the second nine.
this is true. And this illustrious, not illustrious, this illustrious Parks local
Mm,
will actually form quite a big part of the story as we progress over the
mm,
weekend.
yes.
But interestingly, whilst you're playing that first nine and meeting our now very good friend Brownie for the first time, I was driving from Orange to Parks, which is about an hour and a quarter, roughly, which was perfect time to listen to a podcast on the drive to the course. And it's interesting because just today I was listening to our last episode, which was our
Mm,
build up to the event. And in that, we were having quite the conversation about mental preparation and pilgrims. You might recall that my last competitive round, which was the previous Saturday at Wentworth, when I shot a double snowman
mm,
and, on a past 69 as it was on the day, and was really quite disappointed in that round and feeling all the feels of lack of confidence and concerns about preparation and where my game may have gone. So I noticed early in the week that a good friend of the Missing Links Golf Show, Josh Nichols from the Mental Golf Show over in the US, he put a short post up on Twitter saying, "Hey, recording an episode of my own podcast later this week. Any questions, hit me up." So
It,
I put
it's it's interesting that you say that because I'm not familiar with Twitter.
X. So X. I still can't. I still
Oh,
can't.
oh, X, formerly known as Twitter. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
sorry. I just wasn't quite sure what you were talking about.
Yeah, the social media platform run by the I don't know what his role
To
is now in the new
to IC.
administration. Yeah, I don't know, vice president or something. Anyhow, um, so I put a question out to Josh and I said, look, we are, g'day Josh, Steve and Andy here, your mates from Australia. We are playing in this big tournament this weekend. What advice have you got for us to overcome the nerves and pressure of a 36-hole stroke play event on an unfamiliar course? Um, Josh took that and ran with it, spent about
Nice.
10 minutes answering that during the latter half of his episode, which was fantastic advice. And what he was talking about, Andy Walk, I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to it yet, but you absolutely should. What he was talking about was the old conversation that we'd had around nerves simply being reflective of something that means something to you,
Yep.
um, and the difference between nerves and anxiety. Obviously, anxiety when you're starting to get the physical symptoms, not just the sort of the emotional symptoms.
Mm.
But nerves is a superpower. Use them to your advantage. Don't shy away from it, but acknowledge that they exist. Acknowledge that you're doing something that's important, and give it a red hot go.
Yep.
So he talked a lot about that. Talked a lot about the unfamiliarity of the course and doing everything that you can to build familiarity with the course. Some techniques that he suggested included radical ideas like, I don't know, having a practice round the day before the tournament. so,
Yep.
so some of these sorts of things, but it was a really well thought through answer. And Josh, if you're listening, we absolutely do appreciate the advice. I know from my point of view, it definitely helped.
Mm.
And it was good preparation to get out of the car at the other end and then catch up with you for 9 holes around the back nine parks,
Mm.
which I've got to
Mm.
agree was very, very impressive.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I on the other hand, rather than just having time to listen to a podcast, I actually listen to a whole audiobook. on the
You had a
way out
slightly longer
because
drive, yeah.
for 5.5 hours rather than just the hour. So
Mm.
yeah, my drive was slightly different to yours.
50 Shades, was it, that you're listening to?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Or not.
Very good. So yeah, so look, it was good. It was a good practice round. I think we learned a bit about the golf course at that point. We learned that the greens were fast and true. We learned that there were a lot of very big trees,
Yes.
a few nice pieces of OB that were very much in play. Certainly along the left-hand side of about three or
Yeah.
four holes on the back nine.
Which, if the Pilgrims remember correctly, my bad shot is a snap hook, which is something that I've
Mm,
struggled with for a while. So a close out of bounds up the left-hand side of the fairway. Yeah, not ideal.
less than.
Mm.
Absolutely. What else did we learn? We learned where the toilet block was next to the 15th hole.
We did. We did. We both had a crack at that.
Mm.
Not
Yeah, Mick
with
Patterson, he'd
our
been proud. Yeah. No, it
with,
wasn't like that at all.
with our drives we're talking about. So
Yeah.
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 Um,
What was it? And the reason that's relevant, Pilgrims, is that the whole diagram that you see on the sign on the tee box indicated that it was a dog leg to the right
yep.
and up. It's a blind tee shot, kind of semi-blind tee shot up over a bit of a crest of a hill, and there's a toilet block on the right-hand side that looks like it's actually what should be the left-hand side of the fairway if it were to dogleg. However, it does not dogleg. Actually, the sign is a lie. It's a straight hole. So we both hit to the right of the toilet block and found out that that was a very, very difficult place to get to the green
Yes.
from.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. But we also found out that especially the old greens at parks, they all slope towards the railway line, or they all
They
break
do.
towards the railway line. Which interestingly, I'd spoken to another local earlier in the day, and that local I'd said to ask the local, is there anything we need to know? Does green slope any different way or any local knowledge, and he's going, no, 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 all good, play as you see it. So that was quite interesting. And then during the practice round with Brownie, I said to Brownie, so this is what this other local has said. What are your thoughts on that? And very eloquently, Brownie said that no, that is incorrect.
Doesn't sound like Brown. I think there might have been an
And
adjective in there as well.
yeah, and in fact, all
That is
the old
very
greens,
incorrect. Yeah.
yeah, all the old greens actually slope towards the railway line because only a few years back, maybe 2 years back, Parks actually had to redesign some of their holes because there is a bypass now
Mm,
that goes around Parks, which cut off some of the land that Parks had with their golf course. So they had to redesign some of their holes. They've got a number of new greens. Was it 8 new greens they've got, or was it
oh,
9 new greens?
comfortably,
Yeah.
comfortably.
So all the newer greens are quite well, they're very fast and they're very hard.
Mm,
And the older greens, they're a little bit slower, but the older greens are the ones which break towards the railway line. So it was interesting just trying to get the pace of the two different surfaces because the new greens are all bent and very, very good and very, very true. The older greens are a mix of wintergrass and bent, and yeah, it was a little bit tricky trying to get your head around both.
yep, that's a fact. But no, it's a spectacular spot. Really, really nice feel to the course. Good layout.
Mm,
Sort of a lot of trees, but still generous in parts.
yeah. I felt like there was a lot of birdie opportunities on the golf course, but there was also a lot of areas where you could just put yourself and it was almost impossible to either get up and down or even really have a two putt. There was down on the 16th green on the first day,
Oh,
they had the pin at the bottom of the tier, and both the guys that I was playing with were up the back of the green. One of them was putting and the other one was chipping, and both of them chipped off the front of the
Mm.
green, and they didn't really miss by that much. Like they just got it to the top of the tier, and the speed of the green just took it away and off the front of the green. So yeah, it was a little bit tricky in a couple of places.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. There are a few greens like that. Um, but a good test, definitely a good test. Probably worth mentioning as well. The scratch rating for the course for the tournament weekend was actually playing at a 73.
Mm,
So
yes.
it was certainly a solid test of golf. Some long holes out there. The stroke one or for the course was a par four, which was playing at approximately 430 meters.
Yep.
So that's about 475 yards.
Mm, mm.
Um,
I
for one
felt as
hole
though
par
the
four.
par fives were gettable. Well, at least a couple of the par fives. I know 18 on the second day. I hit driver 6 iron into it and made
Yeah,
birdie. So there were a couple of par fives that were gettable, and then there were also a couple of par fours that were just sort of driver wedge or driver gap wedge. So but there were some longer holes as well as
yeah.
you just mentioned that the second was it that that
Yes, the second was a
yeah
tough hole. Yeah, it was a I
um
think 410-meter par four. Yeah,
yeah that
so
was
450
tough.
yards. Yeah,
Yeah, and that was playing into the wind on
it
day
was.
two.
It was. That was not an easy hole at all. So no, it was definitely a good course, a lot of fun. And so anyway, that it was a good practice round. So I think we learned a lot on Friday afternoon. Then we packed the clubs in the car, went back, found the Airbnb, the Bali
The
cottage
Bali
in
hut.
in the backyard
Yeah, yeah.
in the middle of inland New South Wales. It did strike me as odd.
Well, I had a pool and a barbecue area.
Doesn't make it Bali,
Yeah.
really.
Were there any palm trees? I couldn't see any palm trees. I didn't really look that hard, but
I don't know. I'm not sure.
there was
Um,
a table tennis table. I mean, that's typical Balinese,
nothing
isn't it?
says nothing says tropical island like table tennis tables. Um, yeah, I mean, look, it was nice. It did the job for accommodation for us.
Oh,
Yeah,
look, it
absolutely.
was a lovely little villa. I
Yeah,
felt it was, yeah, did exactly the job we needed to.
it did. Didn't have much appeal to us for cooking at home though, so we did have to go out and try and find a meal. Andy Walker, what were your thoughts on that experience? Downtown Parks on a Friday night.
Well, coming back to, didn't have much opportunity to cook in the villa. I mean, if it did, would we have cooked in
No,
the villa?
not a chance.
So that I have to say that wasn't high on the agenda when I was looking for Airbnbs around
No.
parks. So, but look, I mean, we had a good palmy on Friday night. I mean, that pub we went to was pretty good. I
What was it?
mean,
Eric's? Eric's?
yeah,
Or
some
Eric's Kitchen in whatever the pub was. I don't know.
yeah,
Didn't pay
but
attention.
I
That
mean,
palmy was
look,
enormous. We could have got one
yes,
and shared it.
we could have. I look, I mean, this was what time was it? Maybe 8:30 on a
Yeah.
Friday night. I mean, there
Yeah.
didn't seem to be a lot happening in country parks, but I do believe that there are a couple of the pubs that do open quite late.
Mm.
Um, there was some conversation on the Saturday night with the company we were in, saying there was a couple of the pubs that may yeah open a bit
Yeah.
late if you want to
And
partake in.
I think a few of the boys did, which which explained two DNFs on day two.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So anyway, that was a bit of fun. But anyway, let's move on to Saturday, to round one. So yeah, woke up in the morning. Feel like we got a good stretch in.
yeah.
Um,
We did.
good bacon and egg roll.
Oh, it's a great bacon egg roll.
Got down to the course nice and early. We were amongst the first to get there and start the warm up process, which was fantastic piece of advice, Andy Walker, because
And it was very strategic, and because I'd played in a couple of the senior events earlier in the year, and they're generally speaking shotgun start, I've learnt my lesson that you need to actually get to the course early if you
Mm.
want to warm up in the practice nets. Of course, not many of them have practice fairways. They're most of them have practice nets, but there's only usually, three, maybe four if you're lucky. And there were three practice nets at parks, but with 120 golfers teeing off at the same time and three practice nets does get a little bit tight. And,
Little
when you've
congested.
got three or four people waiting and all the rest, you sort of feel a bit rushed with your warm up. So my suggestion was 12 o'clock tee off, 12 noon. We should get there at 10:30 and head straight to the practice nets. Get in a good
Yep.
20, 25 minutes of bashing balls into the nets and then head to the practice green. And I think that worked pretty well.
It was good advice. It was very good advice. I feel like we got a good loosener in early on. And then, yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, by the time we got to the practice green, that was quite full anyway.
Mm.
So
Yeah, it was.
that there wasn't a huge amount of putting to be done there, but enough. And anyway, it was good. So um then we had to make our way out to the various tee boxes. Um, which did you tee off?
I
Right, the
was
shotgun
13.
start. You're on
Yeah,
13. I was on
13.
16.
Mm.
I was group two on 16. And lo and behold, Pilgrims, who should be in my group but Andy Walker's mate, Brownie, from the day before? What are the chances out of 120 golfers? What are the chances?
Yeah, that
Actually,
was pretty funny.
the chances are quite high when you consider that the groups were all ranked according to handicap.
Mm.
So, given that my index at that point had drifted to 9.1, Brownie was playing off a 9.4. Um, and the third member of our group was a young guy from Orange from Country League, as a matter of fact, who was playing off 9.7. So between the three of us, we were probably the three highest markers
Oh, so
in the
you
field.
were the high handicappers in the field.
Yeah, we were the
Yeah.
hackers.
Good one. Good one. How'd you feel about that?
Which um, took the pressure off a little bit, to be perfectly honest,
Mm.
knowing that I was
Yeah.
in a group with two other players of a similar standard.
Yep.
It did take the pressure off a little bit, which was probably not a bad thing. And certainly having a little bit of local knowledge. And Brownie was happy to share everything that he knew. I'm not quite sure how that goes with the rules and regulations of tournament play and helping your playing partners, but it wasn't always helpful either.
He,
Is
he
probably
he was
worth
a
noting.
player slash caddy, was he?
He was certainly giving advice on as many tee boxes as he possibly could. Um, I think, in all honesty, it probably took me a couple of holes just to accept that there was going to be a lot of conversation and to not let that become slightly off-putting and dominant and not allow me to concentrate. So I had to go through a little bit of a breathing process there and
Mm.
kind of reset, which was good. And actually, it was good. It was good in the end. We had a really good day. It was good. It was a good three ball. So it was good fun.
Yeah, yeah. And I must admit, being with someone like that who you know is not going to take, the round too seriously. He's out there to enjoy himself. Yeah, he's going to try and play good golf, but at the end of the day, Brownie's the type of bloke who just wants to, enjoy the round, get out there, have a chat,
Mm,
meet some other good blokes, and yeah, have a great time, which he, you know, does the vast majority of the time.
he certainly does. Certainly had a good time after the round as well. It appeared, but it was interesting actually how different it was to day two. On day two,
Mm,
I was playing with three other guys because we were then ranked on our scores from day
mm.
one rather than on handicaps. So at this point, I was playing with three other guys. One who was 16, one who was 17, and one who was 30. And their respective handicaps were 6, 1, and 1.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so that was a very different
Mm,
kind of an ambience, if you like.
mm. Well, that also says something about your performance on day one. So why don't we get into the performances?
Why don't we? Why don't we? So, yeah, look, it it was interesting. I felt quite a lot of nerves
Yep.
early on, even though obviously knowing that I was playing in a group with sort of similar standard players, but just the vibe of the morning was so much more serious than any other game of
Mm,
golf that I've ever played.
yep.
Um, and the fact that we had a rules official hovering about the place, and
Yeah.
we
Yep.
had digital scoring that you knew was accessible to anyone that wanted to pay attention. And shout out to Mick Patterson. Thanks for your support throughout the weekend
Yep.
and following our scores all the way from Canada. That was super cool. Um,
There was also a leaderboard that you could log into if you
there
wanted
was,
to,
there was,
at any point during a round.
you could, in fact do that. Yeah. So look, I felt like I got out okay. Like I teed off on 16, which is one of the, I think, top three hardest holes in the course.
Yep.
Made bogey. That was fine. Um, and then 17 made a par. But then on 18, which was par five,
Yep.
made birdie. So got it back to
Nice.
even.
Nice.
Um, you know, leaked a couple of bogeys through the start of the second nine, but through 10
But
holes.
that's tough. Like
Oh,
the first and
those
the
holes,
second, like they're
they're tough.
really tough.
They're tough. They're tough. I think I went bogey on those. But then kind of pulled it together, and through 10 holes, I was three over par.
Okay. That's decent
And
for first New South Wales championship event.
I was really happy with things at
Yeah.
that point. And to be honest, was hitting the ball as well as I've hit the ball all year.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Really, I think the changes that I've been making with the setup on my irons, in particular with Jake, with the coach, they started to click. Like they hadn't felt
Nice.
that natural for the last couple of weeks, but they actually
Yeah,
really
yeah.
started to click.
Okay, good.
And that was making a difference. And I was catching everything pretty flush. There was nothing was overly thin or fat. And even just the one session that we'd done on short game on dialing in wedges and
Mm,
chipping around the greens, that was actually starting to pay some
mm.
dividends as well. So
Yeah.
thing,
So
things were certainly
at this
certainly
point, were you feeling comfortable? Were you feeling like, you know what, I belong
yeah.
here?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Because if you go back to the last episode and previous episodes, you'll hear a lot of conversation about the imposter syndrome and being
Mm.
concerned about not belonging and worst case scenario, making a fool of myself in front of other people that are a field full of single digit golfers.
Yeah.
But what was really interesting, I think, by the time I got to about this point, I was feeling like, no, this is good. I'm comfortable in this environment. I've earned the right to be here.
Yep.
Um, that was a massive shift. So knowing that all those good things were happening and feeling a lot more positive with the round and all those sorts of things and flushing the ball quite well and chipping nicely, rolling some good putts. I thought, well, now's the time to check the leaderboard. Uh,
Of course it is. Of course it is.
I want to see where Andy Walker is in relation to my +3
Yep.
Pilgrims at that point in time. Through, I think your scores had only updated through about 6 holes, and you were +2.
Mm.
And I thought,
I've
this
got
is
him.
on. I thought, this is on. This is on.
Yep.
So I got a bit excited, and I started thinking into the future. Although
Mm.
no, I didn't really. To be in fairness, I did catch that thought process and dealt with that quite quickly.
Yep.
Um, but what then happened? So the eighth hole is another par five, and this is where I was up to. The eighth hole is another par five, and it was the one that you had told me about the previous day with trees up the left,
Yep.
water on the right
Yeah, there's
at,
no bailout on that hole.
at driver distance, but you can't really lay back on the hole either, short of the water, because if you do that, then you've got a dog leg beyond the water with a big tree on the corner.
Mm.
So you kind of need to hit driver, but be far enough down on the left-hand side that you can get an angle up the fairway towards the green. So it's a bit of a tricky hole. Brownie obviously mentioned this on the tee box as well. You need to keep left.
Yep.
And he'd said something like, don't even worry about the fairway, aim at the trees, because anything on the fairway will feed to the water.
Yep.
Water's on the right-hand side. So I thought, that's fine. And I lasered an absolute beauty of a drive up the left side of the fairway with a nice tight little
Oh.
draw.
Oh.
It was just peeling back towards the center of the fairway.
Yep.
And I hit that And the other playing partner went, "Oh, mate, that is perfect. Great shot."
And what did Brownie say?
Brownie said, "That's wet."
Wow. And who was right?
And I turned around and I said to Brownie, "Don't be such a pessimist, for God's sake. That's a great drive."
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
went, "Okay." So we got up there and we had a look around for my ball, and we were looking around. And lo and behold, Andy Walker, it was wet.
Mm.
Only just though.
Yep.
It had just crawled in. We managed to salvage the ball. So I took a drop. And anyway, I was quite a long way back though, unfortunately. The drop. So then I had to go over the water around the tree up and unfortunately made double, which was a little bit disappointing. So drifted out to 5 over.
Mm.
And then over the course of the next few holes, made another 3 bogeys. So I was sitting at 8 over with 3 holes to play. And I remember I knew exactly where I was. I remember standing there thinking, you know what? 3 holes to play, 8 over. My index is 9.1, but because of the slope of the course, I was playing on a daily handicap of 11. Like, honestly, not sure the last time I played off an 11. So I'm thinking at 8 over, I've got 3 holes to play. I don't want to make 3 bogeys and come in, on handicap at 11 over. I want to try and, kind of come in under that. So if I
Yep.
par all 3, I'll be stoked. If I par 2, bogey 1, still be happy.
Yep.
If I par 1, bogey 2, yeah, it's not the end of the world. I'll be a little bit disappointed. If I bogey all 3, I'll be disappointed. And fortunately, Andy Walker, I parred all 3. So I finished at +8.
Nice.
So 80 off the stick.
That's pretty good for your first outing
I was
in a
really, really,
in a
really,
New
really
South
happy with that.
Wales
Yep.
championship to actually what did they have you playing off? 9?
My index was 9, but daily handicap was 11.
Oh, daily handicap was 11. Okay, so you've played
Yeah.
3
Plus,
shots under your
yeah,
handicap.
-3. Yep.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
And what that actually, the scores have only just today dropped into the handicapping app. We'll come to that in due course. But
Yep.
it, as a differential, it's actually a 6.1,
Wow. Okay.
given the scratch rating being a 73
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the slope rating of the course being quite high. So
Yep.
it comes in at a 6.1. So,
Nice.
and interestingly, with, looking at my past 20 rounds, it's with my other like good rounds that have dropped out, down at sort of 5s and 4s. That's now my best round in my last 20.
Nice. So you've
To
made
do
your
that under pressure. Yeah,
debut in a New South Wales championship, and you've had your best round in your last 20 rounds.
yes,
You must be pretty happy with that.
I was very happy with that.
Yeah,
Thanks for
yeah.
asking.
Hmm. No, look, great, great
It
round,
was a
great
good day.
debut. Yeah,
It was a really good
good
day.
one.
So how about you? How was round 1 for you?
Um, well, I think I mentioned as we were leaving the Airbnb in the morning, I did say to you that the nerves were just starting to raise their head because yeah, been a little while since I played in New South Wales Championship, and I was a little bit nervous standing on the first tee. I got off to a reasonable start. I made a good solid par at the first. I hit an awful drive at the second. I hit it at about 50 meters right, and I had to basically pitch back out on the fairway. And
I was going to say you can get lucky out on the right.
yeah, I didn't get lucky. Um, I just had to pitch it back out to the fairway and made bogey from there. Uh, Parred the well, it was 15 because it was my third hole. I teed off 13. Parred 15. Then I made bogey at 16. So I was 2
Easy
over
done.
through 4. And going, okay, well, I don't really want to continue on with this. So I wanted to sort of knuckle myself down. Knew there was a couple of birdie holes coming up. So I thought, okay, well, let's sort of get into it. Made a good par at 17. On 18, which is the birdie hole that I was thinking, hit a really, really poor drive, and didn't have a clear shot to the green. So I hit my second out to the right, hit a pretty average pitch. The pin was in a bit of a tricky position from my angle, and ended up about sort of 10 meters, 30 feet past the hole, which I two putted for par, which sort of half felt like a bogey. Then walking from the 18th to the first, there's a path that goes around the back of the tee. And there are a few blokes standing on the practice putting green. And as I was sort of walking out the path, they're like, "Oh, hang on, hold it." I'm just like, "Wow, what's going on?" They're like, "Oh, there's a brown snake in
Yes.
the garden." So I just backtracked very quickly
Yes, there was.
from the brown snake and up the other side of the tee box, and played the first from there. So on the first, which is a really long downhill par three, I hit a 5 iron to about a meter. I hit like
Mm,
probably one of my best shots of the 36 holes. So 5 iron to about a meter and missed it,
nice.
which I wasn't overly happy with, as you can imagine.
Mm,
The second tough par four, I made a bogey there, so I was three over at that point in time, and just felt as though I was sort of similar to how I was playing last Tuesday in that I just felt like I was fighting my driver, I was fighting my putter a little bit. I sort of it was a little bit loose, but I hadn't lost the round,
mm,
if that makes sense. And I felt like I still had the opportunity to shoot something decent. So on the third hole, par five, I had a really, really good drive. Hit an okay second shot, but then hit a fairly poor pitch from the third onto the front of the green, two putted and made par. Uh, the next hole made a solid par. Hole after that, I made a solid par. Um, Then on what hole are we up to? On to the seventh, which I think I had about what I have 6 holes to play. I made a good solid par, which is a long par four.
mm.
Hit a good drive, 7 iron into the middle of the green and made par. Then we come to the eighth hole. And the eighth hole again, the par five, which if you hit a really good drive, you can actually make the green in two. And it was sort of the second shot was playing downwind, and I sort of half thought about just taking an iron and hitting it up the left hand side of the fairway, but I just thought, you know what, no, I need to take the bull by the horns, and I'm still only three over. I've just had a fairly good run of pars. And with 5 holes to play, I feel as though eight was a birdie hole, nine was a birdie hole. I could maybe get back somewhere close to even par. So I've probably hit my best drive of the tournament on the eighth. Absolutely smoked it up the left hand side of the fairway, and it ended up. I pulled out a 4 iron from a second. I was about 205 to the flag, but we were downwind, 205 meters, that is. And I've hit a really, really poor 4 iron left of the green to a
Disappointing.
point where I couldn't actually hit a lob wedge onto the green and stop it short of the flag. So I had to run up a 9 iron. And because it's the Kaiku fairways, it landed and grabbed
Grabbed.
this 9 iron.
It's
I felt as
also,
though I landed the 9 iron exactly where I wanted to land it.
mm,
But it just hit and grabbed and just stayed on the fringe of the green. I mean, it was close enough for me to putt, but I was really, really disappointed. Given the guy who I was playing with, my playing partner, hit exactly the same shot, and it hit really hard and skipped over the green. So we
yeah,
had two almost identical shots and very, very different results. So I sort of felt a little bit hard done by
it's a bit of a
with that.
turtle's back though, that green as well.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So it can be a bit tricky depending on where you miss it.
Yeah.
It can be a little bit difficult to get up and stop it and not have what your playing partner did and roll through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So anyway, I rolled my first putt, about 2 feet past. And then I just hit a really, really poor putt and horseshoed out from about
Mm.
2 feet and walked off with six, which was really frustrating, I must admit, going from a birdie hole 4 iron out to making it six.
Yep.
So I had to have a couple of deep breaths walking to the ninth tee, being four over. And the great thing is I had a really good comeback in, hit a great drive, a good pitch, made the putt for birdie on the ninth to get it back to three over. So I thought, okay, well that's good comeback. Disappointed with the previous hole, but I'm back to three over, three holes to play.
Yep.
I made a fairly sloppy bogey on 10. I hit my second shot. My second shot was really poor. I started to get the leaks to the right. And I don't know where they
Mm.
came from because my bad shot, as you know, is left. But I
Mm.
just started to get these shots that started leaking to the right. And my second shot leaked to the right, and again a little bit of a sort of turtle back green, and
It
I
is.
just I just didn't get up and down. I hit a reasonable chip to maybe 2.5 meters and hit a fairly poor putt. I felt as though when I was putting, all my putts were going left off the putter face, so I just didn't have any confidence on the green. On the 11th, my second last hole, I hit a really really poor 7 iron into the front bunker, which was there's only two bunkers on the course, both of them short of the of the
I
11th
know. I
green.
know. I
I went
found
in
it
one of
too.
them.
Yep.
Hit a reasonably good bunker shot out to about a meter and a half, and missed that. Just pulled it again, just came straight left off the putter face. So two bogeys in a row, which I was seething walking
Mhm.
to the 12th tee. Again, hit a fairly poor drive off 12, which went into sort of the tree line, caught the trees and dropped down. Still had a shot to the green, punched a 5 iron to the left hand side of the green. It was just off the fringe. Had a putt of probably 30 feet, of which I probably hit it. I would have been a little bit more than halfway.
Nice. Uh,
So then I had this tricky little sort of probably about a 12 feet sort of downhill left to right putt to make par, of which I actually hit a really, really good putt, shaved the edge to about a foot past. And I just like I was walking up to the putt, I was just going, another three putt. I can't believe that I finished bogey, bogey, bogey. This putt that was a foot, I was actually standing on someone else's line, so I sort of just tried to sort of massage my stance to so I didn't stand on the my playing partner's line, and in the
oh.
process, I missed the 1 foot putt.
Oh man.
Should have marked it. One of those
Mm.
stupid things that you do that you just, I just, my head wasn't in the right space. It was only a foot, and I stay standing on my playing partner's line, which I was uncomfortable, and I missed it. So you can imagine my walk back up the hill from the 12th
Oh,
after
I
finishing
know.
bogey, bogey double,
I know. And it's straight back up the hill too to the clubhouse the
the
whole way.
7 over 79.
Well, it's still there's a lot of good stuff in there though.
Look, as I said, it was very similar. I felt fairly similar to how I played last Tuesday,
Mm.
in that I felt as though I was keeping the score together and not having a bad scoring round, but I just felt like I was fighting my game. I was fighting my swing. I was fighting my putting stroke. Just didn't feel comfortable,
Yeah.
but just wanted to get through it, grit my teeth, and keep making pars and just keep making one after the other. Only made one birdie throughout the round,
Mm.
which again, only making one birdie is pretty disappointing, but you know, that's that's the round, I guess.
It is the round. You reminded me of a couple of things though. Our friend the snake behind the first tee box. I had a similar experience when I was walking up, and the guys that were sitting behind me were, whoa, there's a snake in the garden. Went, okay. And as you know, I'm quite like my animals. So I wanted to have a little bit of a look. So I
Yep.
did go along the path where he was to try and have a little peek into the garden
Mm.
bed. Um, And I did see him in there as well, and he had a bit of a scurry and a rustle, and fortunately went further into the garden bed because it made me realise that where I was also hard up against a retaining wall,
Yeah. Yep.
and there was nowhere to go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
And Browns, what while I mean blacks will, slide the other way. Browns, if
when
they're
cornered,
yeah,
absolutely, yep, it was not
yeah.
the smartest piece of work.
Yeah, you
Nevertheless,
don't want to mess anyone who's not from Australia when you come to Australia,
if
see a
it's
brown
brown,
snake,
leave it
do
alone.
not mess with a brown snake. Blacks, and look, I've seen plenty of blacks in my time. Just they're pretty common on the golf course. The red belly black snake. Browns, first time I've actually seen a brown snake in the wild.
Oh, really?
Seen seen plenty at reptile parks and those sorts
Nice.
of things. But first time I've actually seen a brown in the wild, and you know what? I'm happy with one.
Come to Dubbo.
No,
Plenty.
I don't,
It's plenty.
don't really want to be seeing another one, but I'm sure at some stage I probably will.
The thing is, the red-bellied black snake is a predator of the brown snake. So if you see the red bellies around, then you're in pretty good shape because they'll
Yeah,
keep
right.
the browns away.
Okay.
So anyway, random snake trivia for you, ladies and gentlemen.
Mm,
The other one that you reminded me of was the 11th hole of par three with the only two bunkers on the course, which is
yeah,
unusual for a course of the
it
quality
is.
that Parks is.
It is.
And I do think, in fairness, I do think that they could improve that course with some bunkering around some of the
Yep.
greens, without a
Yep.
doubt. But it didn't really lose a lot for not having it at the same time.
No, no, I don't think it did
Mm.
either.
So, nevertheless, I too found that bunker. Unfortunately, Andy Walker, it was with my second shot because my tee shot on that par
Wow.
three, I'd missed left, and it's a very narrow shoot of trees that
Yeah, it
pretty
is.
much just hug about the width of the green the whole way up the fairway.
Mm, mm.
So if you miss either side, you're going to get grabbed by the trees, which it did, and it came down. And unfortunately, I was by the trunk of a tree under with low overhanging branches. My only option really was to punch out deliberately into that bunker.
Yep.
Um, However, I did get up and down out of that bunker, Andy Walker.
Mm,
Just
mm. Well, I mean, my bunker shot was actually good enough for me to get up and down, but unfortunately, my putting stroke at that point was not
yeah.
good enough for me to make the putt on the other end.
Oh, look, it happens. That's golf. But anyhow, so 79. Look, 79 is still a good round of golf. I think in tournament conditions, breaking 80. I know off
I
two
was
you want to go better
really,
than that, but
really
even so,
disappointed with it, I have to
yeah.
say. Yeah,
But
my expectation of my game at this point in time is a lot higher than that.
even so, I think there'd be plenty of pilgrims out there that would say I'd take 79 in tournament conditions off the plates on a scratch rated 73
Mm,
golf course. I understand your situation, but I still think don't beat yourself up too badly.
okay. I still will. You know that, don't you?
Okay. Yep. So had a fantastic function that night,
Yep.
hosted by Parks Golf Club.
Yep.
Um, and I was very impressed. Special guest came for dinner, the Deputy Mayor of Park Shire Council,
Yes.
Marg, can't
Marge.
remember,
No, Marg.
can't remember
Yeah.
Marg's last name. Inspirational words, though, that Marg gave about golf, her experiences with golf, which were limited, and her views on the game, mostly through the eyes of her husband, who,
Who's a 26 marker, but apparently was going to get some lessons.
yeah, it's cracking stories, great anecdotes. What I'm like, oh dear. Anyway, it was definitely a good night, and I would absolutely say a huge thank you to Parks Golf Club, and in particular the members of Parks Golf Club, because they did make us feel particularly welcome.
They did.
We're at the local members table. I'm not quite sure how that happened. I guess through our connection with Brownie, everybody's mate.
Yeah, well, because when we rocked up at the dinner, I mean, Brownie was sitting out the front having a drink, so we just started chatting and we just followed
mm,
him to the locals table. I mean, I'm not sure it was whether we were invited or whether we just rocked up and sat down.
I think we're invited. I'd like
Yeah.
to think we're invited. Um, so anyway, it was a lot of fun. It was a good night. It
Couple of
was
reds
very
drunk.
yeah, not much. A little
I
bit.
was
Just
designated driver, by the way.
yeah, yeah.
Very intentional, because I knew potentially that could get me out of a lot of trouble with an 8 o'clock tee off time the next morning.
There was never gonna be a lot of trouble. I was sitting on a perennially half full glass
Yeah, yeah.
as Brownie successfully made his way through 2 bottles of Philip Shaw's finest. He did well. He did
He
very,
did.
very well.
Yeah, yeah.
Better than some of the other young blokes that were there. But
I
nevertheless,
think he's had a fair bit of practice though.
I reckon you might be right. Yeah. But no, it was an excellent night. It was a lot of fun. We had a good laugh, good chat, good
Yeah.
banter.
No, it was a great
Um,
night. Yeah.
it was, and that's one of those things. In all honesty, that's one of those things that makes these sorts of weekends so worthwhile. Is getting the
Yeah.
chance to just get to know a few people that you wouldn't know otherwise, and
Yeah. Yeah. The camaraderie at these events
yeah,
is, it's really cool. It's, you
yeah,
just get to
it's
know
excellent.
some really, really good guys. Yeah, it's, you're on the golf course and it's serious. You're trying to beat each other, but you get off the golf course and, you know, have a beer, have a yak, and have a good
Yeah, it was
time.
good. It was good. It was really good. So anyhow, we made our way home. Good night's sleep.
Yep.
Very early morning the next morning. I think
Yeah, it was.
up at 5:30 or something like that.
Mm. Mm.
So that
Because
we
we
could
set same plan of attack, 8 a.m. tee off time, shotgun start, getting there at 6:30.
mm, aggressive.
Mm.
But again, so good. And my word, wasn't Parks Golf Club looking spectacular in the relatively early morning?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
as we
They
arrived.
they had the rollers out,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the greens, which, we saw that and went, ooh,
yeah.
these greens could be a bit quicker than
Could
yesterday.
be a bit slick. I did drop a little video of that on the Facebook page actually for some of the
Yeah,
pilgrims that
right.
were following
Okay.
along.
Mm.
And yes, that was very much a case of we thought that they were pretty quick on day one, but on day
Yeah.
two they were lightning.
Yeah, and it
Which
would be fairly remiss of us, to not mention what the scores were on day one. There were two 7-unders,
this is a good
which,
point.
yeah, which
Yeah,
we, at that stage, I think neither of us were really in a position to win the
no,
country championships, but some great scoring, like, and they 7-under was a course record as well.
yes. So
Like
course
great
record
scores.
broken twice on day one, um, and that was by Cooper Giddings out of Dubbo, young
Mm.
fella, 16-year-old, big future.
Yep.
Um, who was the other 7 under? Was
Uh,
it Ethan? Was it Ethan from Kiama, or was it? It wasn't. It was another guy,
no, no,
wasn't it?
no. It was Andrew Kirkman.
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah,
Andrew Kirkman,
who
up
was
Coffs Way, I think, mid North Coast.
Kempsey,
Kempsey. Yeah.
defending champion.
Yes, that's right. Unbelievable golf.
Yeah, phenomenal golf. Phenomenal golf.
Unbelievable golf. And as a
Yeah.
matter of fact, it was talked about at the dinner on after day one. Greenkeeper was not particularly pleased with a couple of 7 unders
Mm.
being punched out, so he
Yeah.
was going to have
Yeah.
Greenkeeper's revenge on day two.
Yeah. In
And
fact, 1 under was coming a tie for 13th.
that's an amateur event,
Like, it
just
was just
quality golf.
unbelievably good golf.
Quality golf. Whereabouts were you in the field after day one, Andy Walker?
I was about halfway. I was, around the sort of 60s ish. I think
Mm.
halfway.
One shot back from you, I was in a tie for 80th
Okay.
off the stick. But worth noting, in the net event, I was in ninth. I was in the
Ooh,
top 10
top 10. Nice.
after day one. That was exciting.
Hmm.
It was very
Didn't
exciting.
realize there was a net event.
There most certainly was, and I think you were well aware. I was in the top 10, you weren't. So we move on to day two. So day two with the rankings, we were in consecutive groups. This was exciting. So Andy Walker
We were.
teeing off. We were teeing off the same tee box on 12. Andy Walker's group teeing off, and then my group teeing off straight behind. So it was an
Yep.
opportunity to observe a little bit of each other's golf throughout the day, which was,
Mm.
I think, was kind of cool. So, but no, you're in the group in front, so maybe you tell us how you went.
Yeah. So I felt as though I got off to a solid start. Had par, 12 and 13. 14, which on Saturday I'd blocked my tee shot about 50 meters right. Felt as though I hadn't spent enough time in that part of the world, so I did
Oh, you went
exactly the
back
same
again.
thing.
Nice, nice.
This time though, I did actually have a
Rinse
shot
and repeat.
underneath the pine trees, of which I hit my three utility iron almost along the ground to the front of the green.
Wow,
It
that's
it
golf.
quite literally, I had 133 meters to the pin, and I reckon 130 of it was along the ground.
Hmm.
So yeah, very, very low three utility. Then I proceeded to three putt from the fringe, which was
Nobody likes
very,
that.
very, very disappointing.
It's frustrating.
However, made a couple of pars in a row from there. Parred 15, 16, 17. 18, short par five. Hit a really, really good drive. Six iron just short of the green and almost holed my chip, and made the 1 foot putt for birdie. So I'd sort of got back to square after 6 holes. So I was
Hmm.
pretty happy with that. The first, which is the long par three, was slightly into the wind. So I took one more club than what I did on Saturday and hit a punch four iron, but didn't quite get it high enough. And there's that tree, the tree sort of about 30 meters short of the green,
Yep.
which is a really, really big gum tree. I just caught the top branch of that and it basically came straight down 30 meters short of the green. Hit quite a good pitch up to about 2.5 meters and just misread the putt, which missed short right and tapped in for bogey. Made a bogey on the second. So again, two in a row. On the third, I made a fairly solid par. Then on the fourth, the par three, I hit a really, really good seven iron into the wind to probably 2.5 meters and probably hit my best part of the day. Never looked like going anywhere else but in the middle of the cup. So I sort of got myself back to one over. And I was going, okay, well, if I can, just continue this momentum, I'll be, I'll be pretty happy. Made par up the fifth, made a good solid par up the sixth. Then on seven, I hit probably my biggest cut of the day,
Mm.
which started right and was going hard right. However, it hit a tree and bounced back onto the fairway.
Oof.
So I felt fairly lucky. I was still like
A
205
long way out.
meters
Yeah.
to the green, of which I hit my three utility just short and hit a fairly poor chip, which ended up about 3 meters short and missed the putt. So made bogey to go to two over. Then the par five eighth, which, as you know from yesterday or
Oh, I
from
know it well.
Saturday, I'd hit a pretty good drive and made bogey from four iron out. I just hit two fairly big cuts with my driver, and
Mm.
what's right on the fairway?
It's water.
It's water. So I really didn't want to go into the water, so I took a five iron off the tee.
Wow.
And I hit a five iron 171 meters up the fairway, the left hand side of the fairway. I then hit my three utility exactly the same as what I'd hit my previous drives, just right up over the gum trees. And I was a little bit blocked off for my shot to the green. So I just basically ran an eight iron up onto the green to about 3 meters and two putted for par. So I ended up with a better score than what I'd done the previous day through
Mm.
not being as aggressive as what I'd
That's
been.
interesting.
So I don't know if there's a lesson in that, but that was an interesting little experience.
Mm.
Up nine, which was my birdie hole from the previous day, I hit a really, really bad drive into the right trees. Although I had a shot over the trees, which I hit my gap wedge, and I actually thought I had a really good gap wedge, but it ended up short of the green. And then I hit a pitch which I was really, really happy with, landed exactly where I wanted to land it, and it just hit and stopped dead, about maybe 3 meters, sort of, short of the pin. And I actually hit quite a good putt, but it rolled over the lip and I made bogey. So I was really disappointed with making bogey walking off the ninth because again I felt like that was a birdie hole.
Mm.
Then
Was.
then on 10, my second last hole, exactly the same as my drive on the previous hole, just hit this big cut out to the right hand side, and this was a dog leg left, so it left me a 6 iron into the green. Hit a really really poor 6 iron to the left hand side, just off the left hand side. A really tricky sort of just a chip and run because again it was up a bit of a slope but then all downhill and off the other side of the green, and I hit a really really good 6 iron chip and run to probably 2.5 meters and left it about an inch right in the center of the hole. So again tapped in for another bogey, and by this stage I was seething again, just another finish to the round of a couple of bogeys. So 11, the par three, last hole, I'd hit a 7 iron the day before, and it just sort of, I didn't hit a great 7 iron the day before, but it just sort of held up in the wind, which you can't really feel from the tee,
No. And
and
it was into
landed
the wind
in,
again on day two.
yeah, landed in the front bunker. So I thought, all right, well, it's because I'd hit a 7 iron during the practice round as well. And felt as though 7 iron was the right club in still conditions. Now, I couldn't really feel any wind, but I knew it was, there was a reasonable wind starting to pick up. So I took a club extra in a 6 iron and just absolutely flushed it. It was probably 10 feet right of the flag. And I was like, this is good. This is really, really good. And it sailed over the back of the green, hit the
Yep.
downslope, and ended up about 20 meters through the green, which left me with
Nice.
just an impossible
Yeah, because
chip.
it was a back pin
Yeah, back pin and up the slope to then a back to
downhill.
front.
Mm.
Um, and I couldn't even get my 58 really onto the green with. I don't think I could have stopped it. So I ran an 8 iron just up the slope down. It was probably about maybe 15 to 18 feet past. Again, hit a quite a good putt, but just sort of shaved the left hand side of the hole and tapped in for a bogey bogey finish. Oh, so bogey 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 finish for
Mm.
5 over.
What could have been in the end.
Yeah, I must admit I was gutted,
Mm.
walking off the that last hole, the 11th green. I obviously had 4 over in the last three the previous day, 3 over in the last three on Sunday. So effectively 7 over in my last six holes out of the 12 over that I'd had over the 36. It was very disappointing, I must admit. And to be honest with you, I didn't I'd hit a couple of poor shots, but I also didn't feel as though like it that I'd played that badly. I still felt as though I'd hit a couple of good shots. Yeah, I'd hit a couple of block cuts with my tee shots, but I'd hit on nine. I felt like my second shot was a good shot, and then my tee shot on 11, I felt as though was a really good shot, and I just feel as though I just the rub of the green just didn't fall my way, which was pretty disappointing. But anyway, um, walked off with a aggregate score of 12 over,
It's just not a bad effort.
if you say so.
I did say so. And I'm sure many of the pilgrims will agree.
I must admit I was pretty gutted by the end of it, and yeah, took me a little while needed to just go for a bit of a walk off on my own just to get back into the right headspace to be able to come back and finish off my scorecard and have a drink with my playing partners afterwards.
No, that's fair enough. Totally fair enough. So,
So what about yourself, Mr. Hinks?
so day two, as I mentioned, day two, the atmosphere was considerably different to day one.
Hmm.
I went from the chattiest group on the golf course to the single most introverted group of golfers that I've ever had the experience of playing around with.
Yep.
What was also quite interesting to watch was that my two much younger playing partners that were 16 and 17 years of age, respectively, both very, very talented golfers. And I'm sure we'll do very well in tournaments in the future. Both of whom seemed to have an impression of their own ability that they should hit every shot like Tiger Woods,
Hmm.
and that any shot that did not pan out perfectly was met with a barrage of expletives and
Hmm.
complaint. And I will say this: I was tempted. One of them had his dad caddying
Yep.
around, and I was obviously never going to do this, but I was tempted at one point to suggest that maybe they take a look at John Sherman's Four Foundations of Golf and
Hmm.
learn a little bit about acceptance and
Yep.
not getting so wound up about everything on the golf course,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I quite frankly think that they will be better for it when they grow up.
Hmm.
What I did notice though is that Dad was almost winding his son up at one point with comments like, "That's another birdie putt you've left short."
Oh,
Like
yes.
probably what you don't need to hear. So
Yep.
that was an interesting watch on the way around.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, the fourth member of the group, he was a local. We was playing off one, so he was probably close to a scratch marker anyway. Quality golfer, but the thing was Andy Walker. You can't get away from this. Like I was looking at it saying I could add up the age of any two of the three other playing partners in my group, and they were younger than me
Yep.
combined.
Yep.
Um, what also was a fact was that they all hit the ball 40 to 50 meters longer than I did off the tee.
Mm. Yes.
Um,
Yep.
and that,
Didn't
like,
sit well.
oh, not so much that. It's a different game,
Yeah,
like,
it is.
and I'm hitting 5 iron or 6 iron into greens, and they're hitting 9 irons and wedges.
Mm.
You know, and it's tough. It's tough to
Yeah,
compete
yeah.
with that sort of thing.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Um, but what was interesting, so like we teed off on 12, made a solid par on 12, which was good. Hit a good drive. Actually, hit probably the better drive out of the group. Was the only one on the fairway. They were all up the right side. We all had a shot at the green though. Made the green. Solid two putt. That was good. Then we played 13, which is the par five,
Yep.
and again I hit a nice drive up the fairway. For me, it was an excellent drive. I'm 40 meters short of everybody else, so again I'm playing first. Um, so I hit my second whilst your group was still putting on the
Mm.
green, knowing
Yep.
that there's
Yep.
no chance I'm getting there. I was 260 meters out still.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually
So
did see you hit that second shot. I was watching from the green.
yeah, so I hit a pretty good five wood. It was probably about 50 meters short.
Mm.
Whilst the rest of my group waited for the green to clear before
Yep.
they proceeded to, or miss the green anyway. And then we got up there, and you did see my third shot as well,
I
Andy
did.
Walker, where
I did.
I very nicely stuck a wedge to about 2.5 feet
Yeah.
and made the putt for birdie. So I was
Mm.
one under after two,
Yep.
and that was exciting as everyone else in the group made par.
Mm. Mm.
Um, and then we had a conversation on the next tee box with one of the guys that sort of said, "Wow, it's real eye opener playing with three people that hit the ball so far, because like just the temptation to try and keep up and
Yep.
overswing that I
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
fight."
Yep. Yep.
Which his response was, "Well, if you keep playing from 50 meters back and sticking it inside ours on your second shots, then we're really going to have the bleeps at the end of the day."
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
well, that's an interesting approach, but anyway,
Mm.
thanks,
Yeah, yeah.
thanks for that.
Yep.
Um,
I might add it at this point in time, given you'd shot 8 over on the Saturday, I'd shot 7 over. I'd started par par, you started par birdie.
we're even.
We're even
Mm,
through 20 holes of the championship.
it's pretty amazing. Hence why I was saying that you've been playing well. Yeah. So anyway, made another par. Then we got to the 15th, that short par four up the hill with the toilet block. And unfortunately, I hit my drive right. So I was blocked out by the toilet block to the green. Couldn't see the target. Hit a wedge a little too far. It went over. And I was stuck in this kind of wet area from where all of the sprinklers
Yeah,
had been on in
yeah.
the morning. It was quite
I'd
mushy over
noticed
there.
that. I'd actually noticed that on the previous day on the Saturday and had sort of mental note to myself, don't hit it there.
Don't go there. I went
Mm.
there. It cost me a double, which
Oh,
was disappointing.
mm.
Yeah, to double that hole hurt
Yep.
a little bit. Um, but anyhow, we came back from there. The 16th, which is that tricky long par four,
Yep. Yep.
pin on day
Was
two
on the
was at the
top tier.
back. It was on
Yeah,
the top
yeah.
tier. Hit a pretty good drive up the right side. I had a 6 iron in um, to get the distance to get to the top tier. I actually hit it slightly past the flag. I was on that very steep slope
Yeah,
behind.
that's a tough little shot you've got there.
It was nasty. And I
Mm.
thought, there is no way I can chip this.
Yep.
Any slightly imperfect contact, and that's through the green and back 20
Yep.
meters down the fairway.
Yep.
So I literally feathered it with the Texas wedge, and it rolled down to about 6 inches,
Nice.
which was an easy tap in par, which was nice. So we then went to 17, the short par three. We were into the wind. I hit what I thought was perfect tee shot, but unfortunately came up short. And then poor, I decided to putt on rather than chip on, just because of the lie, the ground that was still a bit sort of puddingy,
Yep.
but a poor putt, and that cost me a bogey, unfortunately, which was a shame. So we went to 18, par five, hit a good drive, pulled my 5 wood, unfortunately. So I was in the trees on the right hand side,
Mm.
not that far from the green, but quite blocked out. Didn't have a full swing, so I had to bunt sort of a 6 iron just along the ground to the front of the green. It was a front pin. Again, took the Texas wedge and putted it up with a fair bit of speed, and it hit the flagstick and just didn't drop, bobbled out to about 6 inches for a tap in par. So that
Mm.
was
Would it have
impressive.
gone in if the flagstick was out?
It would have gone over the green and probably out of bounds.
So, so it had a fair bit of speed then.
It was steaming.
Yeah.
So no, it wouldn't have gone that far, but it would have been well past. It was
Yeah.
not going in. The
Yeah.
flagstick
Right.
saved it,
Yep.
no doubt. Yeah, so then we get to 10, sorry, to one, which is the par three down the hill,
Yep.
2 trees, 195 meters, I think it was playing, so it's
Yep.
quite long.
Yep.
I missed the green left. And Andy Walker, I had one of those horrible scraggy lies, where you've got the grass and no grass and grass and the
Yeah.
ball sitting
Yeah.
down on the dirt, but there's grass either side of it.
Yep. Yep.
So unsurprisingly, I thinned a wedge over the other side, and then
Oh,
kind
and
of,
that was a tough chip
and
coming
then I was
back as well.
short sided, so I kind of only just got it on the green, and made double, which was
Mm.
disappointing.
Yep.
Then on the second hole, tough hole, made a par, hit a good drive, good
Nice.
approach, 2 good putts. But
Yep.
then I had a string of bogeys. I went bogey, 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 double, bogey.
Oh. Mm.
I feel like I wasn't playing bad golf. Just things just weren't quite falling in the right direction. Putts weren't
Yep.
quite dropping. Bounces weren't quite bouncing the right way.
Mm.
Like, for example, the double, which was on the stroke one hole, the seventh, the 430-meter par four, where you'd sliced your drive. Well, I blocked mine out to the left, I thought it was going to get out over the trees. It's obviously caught the top of one of the trees and sort of
Yep.
dropped down. So
Yeah.
it
I
was,
did see where you were.
and then and it would have been potentially a chance to get back over the trees towards
mm,
the green, but the only tree that was on the other hole coming up the other way
yeah.
was right in my line. So I went, all right, well, I can either try and, hit a big high hooking 5 wood to go out left and come back around over the trees. Like the chances of success was so slim.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I went, no, course management. I'm going to take my 6-iron, punch it through the trees back onto the fairway, give myself a chance. So I did that. And of course, I hit the trunk of one of those trees square and bounced back to the left-hand side of the trees. And then I
Wow.
hit a great 6-iron back over the trees, but
Mm,
the damage was done.
yep.
And I made double, which was quite disappointing.
Mm,
Um, so anyhow, we went to the eighth then, which is that par five. This time I hit my tee shot further left and avoided the water.
yep.
Again, hit a 5 wood up short of the green. I was probably 50 meters out. The pin's on the left, and I thought aim at the center of the green. Do the right thing. So I did that. Pulled it slightly and had a little bit of hook spin, skew spin to the right, and because of the turtle back, it then just trickled off the right hand side.
Mm,
Couldn't quite get up and down, so I made bogey. So I was again then staring at 3 holes to play, and I'd spent my handicap shots.
yep.
I'm like, all right, I need to play this. I need to par in. So I parred 9, which was good. I bogeyed 10, unfortunately, which was disappointing.
Yep.
And then on the 11th, which was my last hole, that par 3 with the only bunkers on the course, I too took a 6-iron, Andy Walker. I didn't quite flush it, but I hit it center of the green, pin high.
Mm,
And that putt is a little bit of a left to righter, but the
yeah. Yeah.
hole
It
then
is.
starts to go downhill away
Mm,
from you.
yeah. Yep.
And it scared me to death.
yeah.
So I hit my putt about halfway.
Oh.
And then I had a 6-footer to make par
Yep.
with a big left to righter downhill. And I dribbled it in the front door for a nice par
Nice.
to walk
Nice.
off with what was, in some respects, a disappointing 84.
Yep.
But in some respects, still breaking 85 on both days.
Mm,
I think if you had given that to me before we teed off on day one, I would have bitten your hand off, to be perfectly
yep.
honest, with that golf course.
So
Um,
playing off 11, you've had 80, 84, so 162. So
yep,
you've broken your handicap by 2,
correct,
your daily handicap by 2
correct.
in your
And
in your first ever New South
yeah,
Wales Country Championship,
yeah, which is why I was
on
extremely
a
happy with it.
championship golf course.
Yeah. And even better than that, Andy Walker, on the net leaderboard, I jumped a place to finish in a tie for 8th,
Nice, top 10.
top 10 finish,
Mm.
net.
Yep.
But
I
still,
didn't finish in the top 10 in that.
no, I've got the top 10 here. I don't see you there.
I
I
did
don't.
bring it up. I think I came a tie for 59th.
Which is pretty similar to where you finished overall in the scratch field.
I finished a tie for 57th
So
in the
pretty similar.
scratch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think it was a successful day out. I was quite happy with it. I feel like I probably got a bit physically tired,
Yep.
which was potentially part of the reason for the little string of bogeys of just sort of
Mm.
semi-sloppy bogeys.
Yep.
But the goals that I'd set at the start of the tournament, as we'd talked about, I really wanted to just fully soak up the experience of playing in a tournament of that level.
Yep.
I wanted to stay in every shot for
Yep.
both rounds and not eject and not throw it away.
Mm.
Um,
Mm. Did you feel as though you wanted to look at the leaderboard throughout the round?
Not really on the second day because I'd leaked a few shots, so I didn't really have any expectation that I was
Mm.
going to be there, and I didn't look at the leaderboard. And to be perfectly honest, when we finished the round, and I did look at the leaderboard, and I saw that I was still in the top 10 net, I was astonished.
Okay.
I was
Mm.
not expecting that. So that
Mm.
was nice because I thought that I'd probably thrown that away just with
Yep.
that sort of string of bogeys on through the second nine. Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like there was a lot of solid golf in there. And when I look at my scorecards on both days, the back nine I'd played in 3 over 39. The front nine had a few difficulties on day two,
Yep.
but I think all in all, it was pretty solid. I was very happy with my ball striking
Mm.
across the board.
Yep.
Um, putting was still remained quite good.
Mm.
My short game was better on day one than it was on day two.
Yep.
But I think that's still just grooving some of those things in and
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
bit of practice. And also it's a little bit
Mm.
of bad luck with some lies here and there as well.
Right.
But so I don't want to kind of get too upset about that because it was one of those things. This was the first time I think for quite some time, or since they'd redone the course, that they were not playing preferred lies on the course. So
Yes. Yeah.
um, that there's, you know,
Mm.
you can read into that what you want, but there were a few iffy lies out there that we
Yeah.
got.
Yeah.
Not many, in fairness. The
Mm.
course was in great nick, but there were a
Yep.
few,
Yeah.
definitely a
Yeah.
few.
So did you you didn't keep stats throughout your
No, I
round, did
couldn't
you? You
because ShotScope didn't have the updated course, so there was no ability to use the watch
mm.
and track stats because it couldn't match it to the new layout.
Yep. Yep.
So I don't know.
Mm. Mm. Okay. Well, fortunately, Arcos did. So I did keep my stats throughout
Excellent.
the round. I did have a little moment on the first hole, or my first hole, which was the 12th, on day two, where I pulled out my little Arcos device, Bluetooth device, and realized that I hadn't actually put it on the charger the night
Mm,
before, although the battery was still 75%. And it lasted 36 holes. So I was pretty grateful that
that's good.
I was able to get around both rounds. Now, just before I talk about the stats, how I felt about my round, I felt as though I drove the ball quite poorly, and I felt as
Mm,
though I putted quite poorly. I felt
mm,
as though my approach play was reasonably good, and I was pretty happy with my short game. To be honest with you, I did feel as though and certainly practicing with the tour tempo and getting that 2-to-1 and the acceleration through the ball has just done wonders for my short game. So
right.
I felt, and in fact, in round one, there are a few times where I putted from the fringe and just felt as though I wasn't getting the speed that I wanted, or wasn't getting the result that I was after. So I started actually chipping from those same positions in round two and was getting up and down. So
Okay.
that sort of says a lot about just how far my short game has come over the last 6 weeks since I first purchased the Tour Tempo app. So I've been pretty happy with that. So in day one, 7 over, breaking it down to the four different areas, my driving, and this obviously is in comparing to a scratch golfer, driving was minus zero point 0.9, which is better than what I expected, I have to
Mm,
admit. My approach play was plus 1.8, which I think I hit some really good approach shots. So I think that's about fair. My short game, minus zero point 0.4, which, is probably pretty accurate because I didn't really rely too much on my short game in day one. It was more day two where I felt as though my short game was quite good. And then putting was minus 4.3.
wow.
And I think that's pretty accurate because, yeah, I just felt all at sea. Felt like I had a snake in my hand
Yeah, wow.
when I was standing over it on the greens. So then in day two, again, breaking it down. My driving was plus point one, which I was very, very surprised at because, again, I felt as though I drove it quite poorly. My approach play was minus point 0.9. My short game was 0.0.
Right.
And my putting was minus 1.1.
Okay.
So again, the weakest part of my game was my putting, and I think that's that's pretty accurate. So so it was I don't know. I'm still I still haven't processed the end of the round. I've just sort of come home and got back into work and all the rest. So I haven't sort of given it too much thought. Over the next sort of week, I'll start sort of thinking about it, and maybe trying to figure out what happened. But sort of similar to you, especially on day two, I didn't feel as though I did a lot wrong. In fact, I felt as though I hit a couple of really good shots, and then just felt I was a bit hard done by with a couple of others like the 6 iron on 11 and leaving it an inch short, dead in the center on 10.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so I don't feel as though I did a huge amount wrong, but there's still a lot to work on. And trying to get especially my downswing a lot shallower. That's the key thing that I really think I need to get right in order to get some consistency and for my swing to perform as I want it to at the end of the round.
No, I think that's fair enough. Um, Another perspective on the rounds for you. Have you had a look on the Golf Australia handicapping app to see if that has shifted your handicap?
Yes, yes, I did. I did. And that was because they didn't post the rounds immediately. That only came on today.
After I
Um,
emailed Emmanuel Avaranis,
oh, right. Okay. There you go.
because
Um,
he's caught up down at Murray Downs for the New South Wales Open.
yeah, right. Okay. Yep.
So
Yep.
anyway, we had a bit of a chat about the New South Wales Open, which is a
Yeah.
story for another day.
Okay.
But no, it's a story for right now because we were talking about Cooper Giddings having
Oh,
won
yeah.
this tournament.
Yep.
Obviously, gets a start in the New South Wales Open, but
Mm.
also the young guy from Kiama, Ethan,
Oh, yeah.
who
Yep.
he actually won Monday qualifying, so he also will be playing in the New South Wales Open. So there's
Okay.
two reps from the country championships.
And it would also be remiss of us not to mention that the course record that was set on Saturday
Yes,
was actually broken on Sunday
yes,
with a 64 by Jai
yeah,
Halls from Mollymook Golf Club, my old stomping ground.
yes, yes. Seriously, we've played in a tournament, a 2 round tournament,
Mm,
in which the course record was broken
mm.
3 times.
Yep. Yep.
That is ridiculous.
Yes. And interestingly, talking about Jai Halls from Mollymook, um, my father, Ted from Mollymook, actually
Mm.
plays golf with Jai Hall's grandfather.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
There you go.
It's not such a big world, is it?
No, no, it's not, especially country golf in New South Wales.
Mm.
But anyway,
Exactly. Exactly.
but no, quality golf, quality golf.
Mm.
Jai unfortunately made for him a disappointing even par round on day one. Otherwise, he would have been very much in contention.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to shoot a course record second round, and I mean, he finished 3 shots behind Cooper Giddings. I mean, that says a lot about the quality of golf that was down there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But speaking of quality of golf, coming back to your handicap index, Andy Walker, what's
Oh,
happening?
yes. Yep. Yes.
Well, what's happened?
Oh, I thought you were telling the story. So yeah,
I'm
so
asking.
I started the weekend at 2.3.
Mm.
So I did, and I probably should pull up the Golf Australia app while this is why you should have told the story.
Okay,
Because I'm
I've
not
got it
I'm not
here in
ready.
front of me. If
I'm not
if
ready
you
for
want
it.
me,
No, 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 I'm good. It's
you
up to you.
good?
So yeah, first round wasn't a flag round, but the second round, the 5 over par 77 was a flag round with a gross differential of 3.5, which then reduced my handicap from 2.3 to 2.1, which is actually
Mm.
the lowest that I've been. It was 2.2 after I shot that under par round earlier in the year, but yeah, now on 2.1, which is the lowest I've been for 30 years.
Congratulations. That's
Hmm.
fantastic.
Yeah, look, it's it's pleasing to see I guess the development of my game over the last 12 months.
Mm.
And that I can go from, well, what was it, 5 down to 2.1. I mean, that's pretty satisfying. And I would, if you had given that to me 12 months ago when we started on this pilgrimage, I would have taken that every single day of the week. So yeah, I can't be too disappointed with my year and first 12 months of the missing links when, I've more than halved my handicap.
Absolutely.
Hmm. What
Absolutely.
about yourself, Mr. Hinks?
Well, I think I mentioned that the first round came in at a differential of 6.1, which rated it as my best round in my last
Yes.
20. Um, and I went into the weekend at 9.1. I'd blown out gradually from a low, which I had during one round of 8.0, and crept up as some good rounds were dropping out. And I hadn't really replaced anything because I was having quite a few rounds that were sort of hovering around that 11 and 12 mark.
Mm.
Um, but then, yeah, that 6.1 dropped it back down to 8.4. And then the second round actually was a differential of 9.6.
Okay.
And that kicked out another 11 ish differential round out of my
Mm.
top eight. So that
Okay.
dropped me down a further point 0.2 down to 8.2,
Nice.
back down
Nice.
to 8.2, back down in the low eights.
And that
Um,
that's pretty close to around the low of where you've been, isn't it?
well, it is. I mean, I've been at a low only for one round of 8.0.
Yeah, because I know
And
you were
then
8.1 when
I
you
was
entered the New
8.1
South
for a
Wales Country
while.
Championships.
Yep. And then it blew out to 8.9,
Mm.
9.1, and then to get it back down into the low eights. What's good is the first time that I got down to the low eights, that was a result of having one really low score in there, which had given me the +1 or the -1 additional,
Yep.
when you beat your index by 5
Mm.
shots, you get an extra shot chopped.
Yeah, yeah.
This time, it doesn't involve that. It's legitimately through having 8 solidly single digit rounds in there that count.
Okay.
My next round, I've got a 7.2 dropping out. So
Mm.
obviously, the aim of the exercise would be to replace that with one equal or better. But then I've got 3 rounds before anything else drops out. So
Mm.
I think realistically, my game has improved. Um, just even having a couple of coaching sessions with Jake has ironed out a few simple technique things, which has
Yep.
definitely led to better, more consistent ball striking.
Mm.
So
Mm.
I feel if I can continue to work on some of these little short game issues, that there's definitely potential for that
Yep.
number to drop into the sevens for the very first time. And who knows, maybe even the sixes, you just don't know.
Nice. Nice.
But
Mm.
I feel comfortable that my best is yet to come, Andy Wood.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Well, the other good thing of where I'm at with my handicap is this is the first time ever in the modern handicapping system of my handicap that I have had all 20 rounds within a 12-month period.
Ah, yes, yes,
It's always
yes.
been, the average is probably about 2 years. I have a tendency to play about once a month and then over Christmas have a little bit of a break. But yeah, this is the first time I've had all 20 rounds within 12 months, which I think is a bit
Yep,
of an achievement as well.
yep. Mine is two. I agree. And that means that all 20 rounds have been during the course of the Missing Links Golf Show, which
Correct.
means that we have completely turned over our handicaps during the course of this podcast. So
Correct.
where they sit at the moment, Pilgrims, you've heard every single step of the way.
Yep.
So there you go. So no, it's good. It's going the right way. I loved it. I really enjoyed the weekend. I really enjoyed the environment. I really enjoyed the atmosphere.
Mm.
Got the juices flowing in a way that just regular weekend golf never can.
No.
So
Yeah.
I feel like it's pretty addictive.
Yeah. Yeah. And as I said to you, I think I said to you after Saturday that you will never view club golf the same. Like
Yeah, it's different.
club
It's
golf
totally different.
is great. It's a great opportunity to practice and to play in a club competition, to test your game, in competition, in a competition environment. But there's nothing like going to another golf course and playing under championship conditions in a stroke event to really test
Absolutely.
yourself.
Absolutely. And knowing that you're turning up at the golf course that's hosting the event, wanting to put its best and toughest foot forward for all of
Yep.
the competitors that are turning up.
Yeah, yeah.
Which Parks absolutely did. And I would say, an enormous kudos to Parks Golf Club, and the
There's
two
two
greenkeepers.
greenkeepers there.
It's
Like
absurd.
that is
Absurd.
just ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
that is to put on an event like that and have the golf course in that condition with two blokes is just,
Yeah.
it's mind blowing. It's
They must be
unbelievable.
working 40-hour days
Yeah.
to achieve what they did.
Yeah.
No, it was
100%.
fantastic. So well
Yeah.
done to them. Well done to Golf New South Wales for a great event.
Yep.
Congratulations to Cooper Giddings for winning it. Um, and congratulations to Jai Halls on his course record,
Yep.
taking it over from the boys on day one. But all in all, absolutely brilliant weekend. Loved every minute of it.
Yep.
Can't wait to do it again. I think unfortunately we're going to have to wait till March for the New South
Yep.
Wales Senior Amateur for our next major tournament. But yeah,
I
that was a
was
lot of
I
fun.
was actually looking at the see if there's any senior events to towards the end of the year, and there is one in a couple of weeks' time, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to it or not. So I'll play that by ear and see how we go.
Mm, no, fair enough. Andy
But
Walker, it's been a
yes,
long one. It's been a
it
long
has.
one, but there was a lot to get through. So, Pilgrims, thanks for hanging in there, and thank you for your support. Those of you that reached out over the weekend to keep us going, that was awesome. It was really really
Mm.
cool.
Yeah, and what I would say, Pilgrims, if you do get a chance to get out there and play in a championship event, because
Do it.
there's nothing else like it. There's nothing like getting out there to test your game and getting under that sort of that pressure, that environment of a championship event. I know Steve loves it. I love it, and
It's the best.
yeah, it's the best.
And it's nice to find that out about yourself as well by going through that, because you just don't know how you're going to cope with that. But it was good to actually come through and do okay.
Yep,
So I'm happy with that. All right, Andy Walker, I think we're there.
we are. Only one thing left to do.
And what is that?
Rock out, Pilgrims.